there, top tier.
You just gotta go way down to the
Top
bottom.
tier, yeah.
You'll find it at the very end.
The ones that don't take 8 hours. I keep thinking about how we don't know what we're doing at all.
Yeah.
Like I think about,
Even though we don't know what we're doing, I think we're still doing like okay.
oh
You know?
yeah, no, which is wild. It's got to be Jesus. Because genuinely, I feel like, especially with the short form stuff, like I think unless if everyone else also is just faking it till they make it, like we are, like I'm like, oh, we look professional-ish. You know, we look professional enough. So I think we're chilling.
I know we got the captions on there and they're highlighted in yellow.
Facts.
Yeah, we got the camera switching.
Exactly.
I don't know. I never thought it would look like this.
Me either. I thought it was gonna be. Actually, I don't know what I thought it was gonna be. I didn't think it would be like this, and this is the beginning. Oh, we're chilling.
And then even changing, like we were saying, this setup, I was like, I don't know, that might be weird kind of sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
But then it's like, it looks so much better.
Every episode, we're just slowly getting further away. Like, slowly.
I'm like sitting on the arm. Just like.
We're going to have the pillows in between us. Oh, man. But, yeah, no, I think it's just true to us, too. Like, why act like we have it together if we don't?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
I think that's an important thing. In Christianity, too. I think that's a very important thing to do just in life. Like, why are you trying to fake it? And honestly, okay, that's great, because I've been trying to understand, let me set the stage, right? Is it better to do something differently because people are watching, or just do what you would already do? Like, which one is worse and which one is better? So, for example, let's do something like not crazy serious, like cussing. Let's say I just cuss all the time. And then I come on this podcast and I'm like, oh, I'm going to make myself not cuss.
Yeah.
Like, if we take away the people we're trying to reach and all that stuff, like just from an authenticity point of view, is it better to just do what you were already going to do? Or is it better to like stop and try to, you know? You see what I'm asking? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
And you're asking me, right? That's not rhetorical?
No, that's a real question. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like understanding who the audience is, but at the same time, like being true to yourself without putting a face on. So it's like, hey, we're going to be talking about music that doesn't have any like cussing in it, while we still might listen to music with cussing in it, and we might cuss off camera and stuff like that. But at the same time, not shying away and acting like you're not better than that, whether that's on camera or off camera. Like, I don't know, for me, yeah, my language might not always be the best off camera, but on camera, I'm probably going to try not to use anything explicit or talk about things graphically or anything like that, just because it's going to be like, it's going to be public, and just want to make sure, try to keep it clean. But at the same time, that's true to myself. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know. That's a good, really, really good question. And yeah.
Because there's levels on it on every value too, because it's like, I have a niece, I'm not gonna go and like show her explicit things, not even like explicit, but just things that are more mature, because I'm being fake to myself. You know, I'm respecting my audience. But at the same time, I think there is a way to do that and still be authentic, and I feel like that's a really weird place to find. And I think it's easier for us since it's just a podcast, but when I think of like pastors and preachers and stuff, I'm just kind of like, it's almost like in middle school or something, when you see your teacher like at the store and you're like, you wear jeans? And you know, like, it's just kind of like, you almost have this level of like, oh, they're just regular people just like me.
Right.
And I feel like I've been feeling that a lot when it comes to us editing stuff. I'm like, oh, people who I think have it together on Instagram are probably just editing like we are. Or people who are preaching are probably struggling with the same things as we are, or vice versa. So I feel like that's something that I think will end up probably coming back to a lot in this podcast, because we really are just regular people,
right?
Like, in every aspect of the word. Like, I would say, like, I'm not even like, I'm like a below average Christian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I'm doing my best out here, but like, I am not trying to hide any of my flaws or any of my, you know? And I feel like it's really easy to be that cookie cutter mentality or try to show it, but then you just end up like becoming depressed because you're trying to live up to expectations that you can't even meet for yourself. So I feel like that's my goal for this podcast, just to be real.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I feel that because, like, I think that's what makes Christianity for such a beautiful thing in my life, and what's drawn me towards Christ is this whole like identity crisis and not really knowing who I am and having like this imposter syndrome and trying to be something that I might not necessarily be. And, you know, if you, when you get to know God, it's like, you don't have to be those things.
Yeah.
And you can admit that you're not perfect and you're struggling with this and you're dealing with this and you got all this stuff going on. But that's like, what's so cool about God's love is that he's going to take you for where you're at. And, and he's going to continue to like help you work on those things. But,
step by step.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually the hardest thing I've ever dealt with in my life is like identity stuff.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was specific to me, but I think everyone deals with it. Because like being from Africa, when we moved here, like I was being raised in like an African household in an American society.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how to be myself or even who myself should be. So it was like the biggest struggle was like, do I stop learning Swahili? Do I hide my accent? You know, like what do I do? Like back and forth and back and forth. And I feel like honestly until college, I didn't really understand or even like how to be like, I guess what the world would call like be black. You know what I mean? Like it was like, I don't really understand white people. I don't really understand Black American people. Yeah. It's like I'm in this weird mix. And like when I think about it now, I'm like, why did I even care about that? But it's like, as a child, it's like I need somewhere to fit in. Yeah. You know, I'm not like my parents. I'm not like my siblings. I'm not like my peers. Like, what do I do? And it really is, like I try to explain to people, but like finding, when you understand that your identity can be found in Christ, it's like that really doesn't matter. You almost forget. It's just kind of like, oh, I don't know. If I say something goofy and people don't laugh, like, I'm sure Jesus laughing, you know, like it's like, why do I care? Like if he has accepted me, then I don't need your acceptance. And like KB says this in one of his songs, like he says, I love, what's he say? He says, I love Jesus, my wife happy, there's nothing that's to conform to. And it's just kind of like, I think about that all the time. Like, it's like, I don't really care about anyone else in that aspect of like, I don't need to please anyone because God has me, my identity is in him. The world only has me for this short period of time. So like, you know, let it go and be in peace. You know what I mean? So that's a really cool thing.
It is. And I mean, I think even when you become aware of that, you start to realize maybe where a lot of your insecurities came from.
Yes.
And big deals like that. Like even just going back to like the black thing. Like I know I grew up in Cincinnati in an African home too. And there was like I grew up around a lot of white people. Like I was a token black dude.
Yeah.
So it's, I had this like, oh, well, I'm not black enough to hang out with the black people, but I'm not white.
Yeah.
But I might like talk differently or dress differently. And I'm like, I don't really know what to do. Like, I don't know how to act, how to talk, how to dress. I'm like, I don't know where I fit in. And it's weird. And just being able to come into your own place, I think, with Jesus, was huge.
And it's like he takes those insecurities too and like flips them. Because like now it's like, oh, I went to a white church growing up. I understand that entire demographic. You know, I understand the African demographic. I understand the Black American demographic. It's like God just like used all of those things that I thought was like hell at the time. And it's now like, I'm like a well-around person, you know? It's like, oh no, like now I can use you to reach anyone at any place, you know? And you can relate in some way. It might be a little bit, but it's like, you know, like you don't meet a lot of people who genuinely and maybe this sounds prideful, but I just feel like God has allowed me, because of all of those things, to not like make enemies very quickly. Like it's almost hard for me to do that because I'm like, oh, I understand where they're coming from. Like I understand what they feel. And it's like, who would have thought that in all of that pain and all the 18 years where I thought I was just dying on the inside, that God was like, just give me a couple more years, you know, and this is going to be your greatest strength. Yeah. So I think it's just cool how he does that and how he uses things that aren't even not biblical, but aren't even like spiritual to do those things like in your life, no matter what it is. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today with the song that we're doing. It literally is going to be showing God using things that you think have nothing to do with him. And he's like, you thought I'm in everything, you know? And I think that's a really cool thing. So, this is going to be a good episode. This is going to be a really good episode.
I'm really excited about this song, man. You were low-key kind of holding out on me on this song.
I was not.
A little bit.
No.
Like, you showed me that playlist, and I'm like, this is something you said indirectly. Like, this is a song you sent indirectly. I shouldn't have to find this.
I was like, is Dion gonna listen to this playlist I sent him? And he's gonna find some good music in here if he does.
No, it was the first one I heard when I hit shuffle, and I was like, where has this been? Like, this song it's been on repeat since I've heard it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
So good. This is what introduced me to No Big Deal too.
Okay.
Like I was like, okay, this dude's not a like. I'm no disrespect. I kind of thought he was whack when I first ever heard a song by him, and I think it honestly was because I was in a rough place, and I was just kind of like, man, forget Christian music. I don't want to hear this. Like, give me some like, like Biggie or something. Like, but yeah, this was like, okay, I see you, No Big Deal. I was like, all right, I see you, Danielle. Like, let me get some more stuff. But yeah, so the song is "Can't Save a Soul," and it's by Danielle. How do we say her last name?
Apicella, I think. I hope. Correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, it was Italian. Apicella.
Apicella.
But yeah, so Danielle sings it, and we got No Big Deal in there. And I remember I was following her like on socials whenever she first was going through the song, and I can't remember the person who like did all the DJing and mixing, but I have to find that too because he deserves his flowers as well. But this song is crazy to me because I think it's a version of Christianity that people don't really think through, because I think the Bible says clearly in order to accept Jesus, you first have to realize that you're lost. And I think that in most people's mind is the easiest thing. It's the easiest thing to do. But it's actually the hardest thing to do, is to first realize that you need him and then he brings you in. But I think a lot of people get either scared and they're like, oh, I don't want to go to hell, or I don't want to suffer. And they think that's them needing Jesus, but people miss the relationship part where it's like, no, you need me in everything, not just to go to heaven, but you need me to walk, to see, to not sin, to enjoy life, to be happy, to be joyous, all of those things. And I think this song does a good job of just showing that. It's like, hey, I can't help you until you realize you can't help yourself. Because right now you think you're saving yourself. So I'm praying to God. It says it over in the chorus. Pray to God that he saves you from yourself. And I think that's such a good reminder of what we need to do like in everyday life.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, I don't wish that I'd apply on anybody, but it's not until like you really hit rock bottom that you realize that you're lost. Yeah, right? You're like, please. I got nowhere else to go. So, and I mean, just thinking about, I mean, even going back to what you were saying, I think about the rich man parable, I think it was, where it's like it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for somebody to get into the kingdom
Which
of
is
God.
A crazy thing to say. Like, Jesus, what are you on? Like,
like that's impossible.
Yeah, like I'm at my church right now, and he's like, it's easier for a semi-truck to go through your pinky than it is for somebody with a mill to, like, sir, please relax.
Yeah. So it's like when you have everything, you don't think you need God. And then like even just thinking about to my own life, just thinking, I've been living some certain way for half my life, 15 years or whatever that is. And it's like, I've made it this far and I think I'm doing okay by the world standards. So why would I need to go find out who God is? And I know for a fact that people were praying for me, kind of like what she was saying in the chorus, because I always say, if it was anybody else that would have invited me to church or shared the gospel with me or whatever, I'd have been like, nah, like I'm good on all that, like I'm fine. And I'm not about to give up these things that I'll get into a little bit more, but just to start going to church, like I'm good with where I'm at.
Yeah.
And, I'm not a square, so I'm definitely not going to be going, and I'm not really trying to hang out with y'all. So.
Yeah. No, you're so right. But what about just, you said with personal life, because I'm not convinced that for me specifically, when I'm doing better, I think of God less. This is going to sound controversial, but I would first argue that when I'm with God, my life gets kind of worse. Like in the sense of like, I feel like I'm struggling with more things, but it seems like the devil is just like hitting me with more and more things. And I think one of the hard things for me was to realize that that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's more like a testing thing. Because I'm a logical guy. So in my mind, I'm like, if my life sucks more when I follow Jesus probably isn't a good idea. Like that's what my mind goes to. Yeah. But I think like the maturity part is like understanding that it's like, no, it's not Jesus. It's like he's just wanting you to like the more you can handle, the more life is going to throw at you. And when you do overcome that, you're going to see the blessings even abundantly more. So do you think that it really is the lower you are in life, the more you're leaning on Jesus? Or is it the more that you're just hearing Jesus because you're forced to? Like, how do you think that actually is?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think it's probably the lower that you are in life. I think, at least for me, I'm just speaking for myself, my own experience, that you're leaning on Jesus. But I think once you know God and how he's brought you out of that pit, then you're just going to be leaning on him all the time, or being more grateful and gratitude and things like that. And this probably doesn't answer your question, but with what you were saying about how you feel like with Jesus that your life has gotten worse or maybe feels a little bit worse. It's funny because it's like the enemy's tricky, man.
Yeah.
He's tricky.
Yeah.
And like even just thinking about what I was saying, that it's like, oh, I'm good. Like I've been living this way for 15 years and I don't really need that. And it's like the enemy's got me tricked and I'm good.
Exactly.
And you don't really, until you meet God, you don't realize what you believe is giving you life is actually killing you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so true. Say that again one more time. What was that?
You don't actually realize that what you think is giving you life is actually killing you.
That is so, one more time. Last one. That is so good.
You don't really realize that what you think is giving you life is actually killing you until you meet God and you realize that He is the way, truth, and the life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And is filling you up. Because, I mean, what you say is like whoever loses their life gains it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is so good. Like literally so good. I almost want to make you say it again. Like that's so crazy because that one thing I think is what holds us back.
Yeah.
Like it's like what feels good right now, even if you can't see that it's temporary, genuinely is killing you slowly by slowly. And what's crazy is it's not even a secret. Like it's obvious. Like it's so clear. And it's just kind of like, but social media tells me differently. Oh, but it feels good or whatever it is. And in any aspect, in any sin, but we ignore it and we ignore it willingly. And that's so crazy, like how easy it is to do that or fall into that. Because we've all done it. Like even as Christians or before BC, before Christ, like no matter what it is, like I think we do that a lot. And again, that's another thing that No Big Deal talks about in the song. Like the first verse, it's like, I just got a text from a model. I just found a genie in a bottle. I've been living life in the fast lane. I've been living life full throttle. It's just kind of like, why do you need Jesus? You texting models and you out here living life like whatever. Like, why would you need that? And it's just kind of like, all right, well, you got to ask the hard questions too. Like, why are there so many rich people who have taken their own life? Why are there so many people who are having broken families? Why are so many children struggling in these, amazing lives? Like, and it's like when you actually are allowing yourself to be like, let me separate myself for a second and ask real questions, you realize that no matter how hard you look, how much you meditate, whatever, the only way you can find peace and find life is through Jesus. And people think you're crazy when you say that, but like when you experience it, you're like, oh dang, no, they were right. Like, how did I wait this long? Like, how did I stop this long before I did this? And
you really don't know until you see it for yourself. It's like just trying to, I don't know if this is a good or bad analogy, but it's like trying to compare, like, I don't know, going somewhere overseas, like, or climbing Mount Everest or seeing like that in person, seeing Mount Everest in person. And you're seeing it on a picture, but you really don't know what it looks and what it feels like until you like are standing in its presence.
Yeah.
And I think this song is cool because I don't know if you picked up on this. I feel like the dynamic between the two, it's almost like Danielle is singing to No Big Deal.
Yes, and like, he's like, no, why would I want? It literally is back and forth.
Because at the end of his verse, he's like, I say this in the kindest way. I don't need you.
Yeah. It's so good. No, you're literally. It's like she's pleading over and over and over, and he's just kind of like, no, I have this. Like, leave me alone. Like, and that's what we go through too. I literally was talking to my boy the other day and I was just going through and we were going back and forth and he was just kind of like, yeah, I don't see it. And like, part of me is just kind of like, I can't open your eyes. Like, there's no way. Like you say, you have to experience for yourself. And I think the cool thing about what you said too with the Mount Everest example is like, not only does being there in person open your eyes to its beauty, but it changes your perspective. And I think that's what people don't think happens. It's like, yeah, even if I see God and I experience him, cool, I saw him. But what they don't realize is that it's genuinely going to change your perspective of the rest of your life. Because if you go to Africa, if you go to my village where I grew up and you've done nothing but like, grew up with a PS4 in your hand, like it's going to change your perspective. You're going to start to question like, oh, what do I actually need to be happy? What do I actually need to live a fulfilling life? And it's like, if seeing some little black kids, in the dirt can do that, like imagine what the creator of the universe can do that for you and like how quickly. And I feel like we're also sugarcoating it because it's, even if you experience that, it's very easy to fall off. It's very easy to like, go back into like your old ways, but it is just insane to see like how impactful that can be, like in every aspect, and from things like this, like God putting this song with these two random people that were, fangirling over it.
We are. But that's why I'm so passionate about like this kind of music and just doing this whole project with you and everything. I'm just want to, because I think the world and social media and music and TV and commercials are all just pushing this agenda that you can have all these things and you can do everything and this is what's fun to do, and like none of that is gonna get, like the only thing that is gonna give you life is Jesus. And I've seen that like firsthand. Like getting high, not gonna give you life. Getting drunk, going to a party and hanging out with all your friends and doing all these fun things and not gonna give you life. Having sex, not gonna give you life. And like there's good to all of these different things. Maybe not all of them, but and you know, there's like these things that are here for us to enjoy. But like I know just from both sides that the only thing that has truly given me life is Jesus, and just realizing like, hey, you know, every time I would smoke weed or get drunk or do all of these different things, it wasn't until after I met God that I realized it was really just draining me, and it's trying to make me escape and give myself a comfort to all the stuff I didn't want to deal with directly.
Exactly. No, you said that right. I feel like it's just a distraction at some point.
Yeah.
It's like if you can stop thinking about it, then you feel good about it. But eventually it's going to hit you again. And it's like you just have to double down, then triple down, then quadruple down through. But how do you explain it to someone? Like, if it is only Jesus that can give you life, and we believe that, we know that, how do you, and people can only see that when they experience it themselves, how do you go about talking to people in a way? Because I know, at least for us, an easy way is music, you know?
Right.
Like, that's like, honestly, I think it's the easiest way. Like, even if I'm in the car with someone and they're just kind of like, what is this song? And I'm like, you know, like in my mind, I'm like, little do you know, Jesus about to hit you like a rock, my boy, you know? Like, I think it's a really easy way to do that. So outside of that, just for the regular person who might be listening, like what, and maybe that's a tough question, but just like, how do you go about sharing Jesus in a way that's not going to repel you, you know, that's going to allow them to be that one person. It's like, oh, if this person reaches out to me, then like, I'll go, or this person does whatever, like I'll listen. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, that's so funny because that came up into my mind that I was going to want to try to talk through is like, how do we share the gospel, or why maybe do we shy away from sharing the gospel and opportunities, or why do I shy away from sharing the gospel? And it's like, you don't want to sound weird.
Bro, yes. Like, I know how they sounded before I was a believer. I do not want to be like them. I think about that all the time.
Yeah. And
all
like,
the time.
You want to say all the right things.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it's got to hit like this.
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
I got to say this.
I got to turn the music on in the background. I have the mood setting. No, you're right. You're right. And why do we do that? Is it a pride thing? Why do we feel that way?
I think it's an insecure thing. I mean, maybe it's just like an insecurity with your own faith. And I mean, I'm just speaking from own personal experience when I say these things. It's like, it's, you know, hey, and the beautiful thing about sharing the gospel is it tests yourself to think like, do you believe what you actually say that you believe?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because if you do, then Jesus is enough.
Yeah.
What you say really doesn't matter.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
God's
exactly.
going to do it for you.
Exactly. So, I mean, to just going back to what you're saying, I think it's like, I do believe that relational capital is a big thing. And just if you know this person and they know you're a believer and you know that they're not, like I have a ton of all my boys from back home are like, you know, not some like grew up like Catholic and things like that. Not really gonna get into all that, but not it's just different since I've been walking with the Lord, and they're still my really good friends. And at first I was like scared to death. I'm like, oh man, I can't tell them this because they're like, oh no, like Dan's weird now, and we can't really invite him to all these things and stuff like that. But it was funny because it was just the complete opposite. So just going back to your question is like, how can you just relate things to your own story or just your own casual conversation? And it's like, hey, like, here's what I think and here's why, because this is what God has done in my life. And I don't know if this is going to be helpful to you. I'm happy to talk about it, whether you believe it or not. And just like not try to have this savior complex where it's like, you got to believe this. And just giving them that choice, because God gives us a choice.
Exactly.
And it's not up to us to do the saving. Like all we can do is plant the seed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you're so right. You're so right. And I think we don't give people enough credit. Like, people can see through your BS. You know, like, people know if you're being genuine or if you're trying to just like sell them something real quick. And I think, like, especially with people who have known you for a long time, like, of course Jesus is going to change you when you accept him, but you're not going to just become, you do become a new person, but you still, your old self is still there. You know what I mean? Like, your old habits are still there. Your old mentality most of the part is still there. And it's like, that's things that Jesus works through step by step. But it's like, if I've known you for 15 years and I become a believer and I don't want to smoke with you anymore, like, you can still tell if it's like, hey, buddy, you shouldn't be, like, no, like, that's the devil's cabbage. I don't know what people say nowadays. But it's like, if I'm genuinely just like, hey, nah, like, I'm good, like, I'm not judging you, like, do your thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But just like, I think I have something that's better than that. And like, if you want to hear about it, like, I'm down to, I'd love to share you why I feel like it's not a good idea. And I think people like hear you out. People like listen. And I think that's one thing too I've like learned a lot too. The church I grew up in was very much like they supported a lot of people who would just be like on a street corner, just like yelling and just like, you're going to hell, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, although that is true, I don't think I think in my opinion, that's the most like cowardly way to reach someone for Jesus. Like, it's like, what's actually difficult, maybe cowardly is bad. I don't want to offend people. It's the least like, it's the easiest way in my opinion, because you're just saying things out loud. But I think what's hard is like investing in people and like being a friend to someone in a way that they don't even know that they need. And when they realize that the friend that you're being to them is not even like 1% of the friend Jesus will be to you. I think that's what really like sells people. Like, it's like, if you know that someone cares, you're going to listen to what they say. If you show someone that like you truly love them, they're going to trust you with whatever they're going through. And if you can do that without judging and meet them at their point of need the way that Jesus did, there's no way someone's not going to listen. They might not accept Jesus, but they're going to hear you out like 100%.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's just maturing and growing and realizing that like, yeah, it might be uncomfortable and it might be inconvenient, but if you do it the way that Jesus did, it's impossible to fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool thing to think through too.
Yeah. And just understanding that if this person or whomever is responding to you into the way that you fear, it's like, has nothing to do with you or your identity. And that's on them. Like, if that's how they want to respond, and maybe they were never your friend in the first place. Yeah. If they're not going to love you for whoever you are and whatever you believe at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah, if I only love you because you do specific things with me, like, what are we doing?
Right.
Who are actually, like, what are we? And I think another cool thing too is like how you said with No Big Deal ending the song with, I say it in the kindest way, I don't need you. It's like, there's not a resolution in that song. Like, he says, I don't need you. And then what does she say? I pray to God that you save you from yourself. Yeah. So it's like, if you get rejected, like, it's not like, well, scratch that off the list. Like, it's like, no, like, pray for them. Keep looking for them. You don't have to keep shoving it down their throat. But like, prayer is the most powerful thing that we have. And I think I forget about that too. It's like, bro, like, the power that lives inside of you. Like, Romans 1:16, for I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it's the power in you that raised Christ from the dead. Like, literally the power that lives inside of you. Like, you can move mountains. You can raise from the dead. You can heal people. You know what I mean? Like, he who does that quite literally is inside of you. So if you pray for those people, like, God, and the Bible also says that if you follow God, like, he'll give you the desires of your heart. And if my one desire is that you find Jesus, I think God's going to do his work. You know what I mean? Like, I think he is going to, like, if my one desire is like make $1 million, that might be a little different, But if it's like the only thing I'm praying for, let's say I have a kid one day, he just hates Jesus. And from the moment he's 1 day old till he's, 55, I'm praying for him earnestly every single day. I refuse to believe that Jesus is just going to say, no, like, there's no way. And obviously there's more that goes into that. But like, I do believe that he's going to be showing that person like the things that I'm praying for, because there's no way that it's not in God's will for him to, for us to make disciples, for whatever. So I think the biggest part too is just like being earnest. And I struggle with this a lot. It's like, God, heal my body. I wake up tomorrow, I'm in pain. Well, I guess God's not listening. Like, I that's the thing that I do, and like, that's bad. Or like, and when I was in school, like, I'm praying for this test. I'm working hard. I'm doing what I need to do, and I still don't do well. Well, God doesn't care about me. No, that's not how that works. Like, keep praying, keep trusting, keep believing, because it's easy to have faith when you see the results. Yeah. It's easy to trust that something is happening when you see it happen. Like, it's easy to know your package is going to arrive on time when you can watch it.
Yeah.
But it's like when you actually have to like stop and be like, oh, I expected it today, but it's not here. I'm still going to pray that it's going to come. I'm still going to pray that God's going to heal them. I'm still going to pray that God's going to use that person. And it's like, once you get to that point, there's nothing holding you back. Like, you're free range, you can go, and Jesus is walking with you when you do that.
Yeah. Yeah, and just having mercy and compassion for them. I mean, we all have our own wounds and our own stories, and maybe somebody was hurt by the church, or maybe it's like they have a misconception or a distorted view of God, and it's just kind of showing them like, hey, like this is the God that I know and that I believe, and this is what brought me to Him. So, I mean, yeah, you were just right on point, right on target with how powerful prayer is.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah, because she admits it. She's like, I just pray to, like, because I can't do it. Yeah. That's why I pray to God that He'll save your soul.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Give it to the guy who can. And I think God works in cool ways too. And like I was debating on even like talking through this with the J. Cole thing, but it's like God, I think, will show Himself to you or to whomever in any way possible, because like we talked through it. I think we talk about it one other episode, but like even just like the artwork in the back and stuff like that. Have we talked about that in the podcast?
No, not in the podcast.
Yeah, so I feel like me and Daniel, we've been going back and forth on this whole just like how much are we showing of ourselves? You know, like how much is real life and how much is like the podcast? And I think the more we've spoken about it, it's just kind of like, how can real life not be the podcast? You know, like how can we have like differences? And I think just like
we're not robots, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't AI, you know. We're actually playing pickleball out here on Saturday morning. But like I think we're at this point in both of our lives where we want to be as authentic as possible, and we want to be as biblical as possible as well. And it's like I think there's things that we're both working on in our lives, but we just want to give everyone listening and each other the like most true version of ourselves. So like even like for the people who are listening like on Spotify and stuff, you can't see the room we're in, but you know, we have non-Christian album covers, you know, like behind us, and it's because like we enjoy that music. And even like right now, like I'm about to talk about a J. Cole song. I guess you can argue I don't know if he's a Christian or not. Like some of the lyrics, I'm like, hey, yo, bro, this sounds like Bible to me, you know? But like, it's again, like, it's not something I'd play around for like my niece. And it's just kind of like, I think going back and forth with that, it's even in those things, like, I think like God can show. And I think we're just trying to show that we're not, you can do whatever you need to do. Just know that like, I think God is going to show you what you should and you shouldn't do. And there's levels to everything, whether that's the music you listen to, the shows you watch, the people you talk to, the activities you're doing. Like, I think there's right and wrong. And I think that can fluctuate sometimes if it's not biblical. I think what God says is wrong. And I think what our convictions show, you know, can go back and forth between people. But with all that said, I'm just
well, it was
rambling.
funny because like even like the artwork thing, like we didn't even know it was up there until we were taking pictures and
we were
show
like,
it. And I was like,
is that bad?
I'm like, should we take those down? But then I'm like, we didn't even know they were up there, and that's a part of like who I am and what we listen to. And the fact, like, if there's one thing that God has shown me is that you can't hide from Him. So why would I try to hide from anybody else? You know, like those are, sometimes I'll listen to that music and I'm trying to find some music that is glorifying the Lord that I still enjoy and everything like that. And those are just kind of what you were saying. There's right and wrongs, and a lot of things are up to your own conviction in the way that the Holy Spirit is convicting you. But it's like, I can't hide from God. So why would I try to hide who I am or what I'm doing from anybody else?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, if I'm not worried about your judgments, if God's judging me, for sure. Right. And people say that in like a way that's like, I can do whatever. Like, nah, I'd be worried.
Yeah.
I would be a little stressed.
Hope that's clear.
Yeah. But yeah, I texted you, when was this, like a week ago or something like that?
Yeah.
About No Role Models by J. Cole. And it's like, it's just crazy that like I had been going through, so like honestly since the podcast and a little bit before, I'd just been going through all of the songs on my Spotify, and everything that I was like, this is hurtful to my soul, to my spirit, I've been removing. And I just go through all my songs, and if something comes up, I take it off. And there's a lot of songs that I've taken off, and a lot of it's cool because I don't really miss a lot of it. But then some songs where I'm just kind of like, this isn't really gospel, this isn't really, you know, helping me, but it's not hurting me either. And it's like in those songs, it's almost like God has kind of shown Himself in me. So with like this song, it was just wild because the lyrics say, one time, is it weird if I say hoe on here? Is that
well,
bad?
You just did.
Yeah, I just did. Sorry.
But maybe a little bit.
All right. Well, so pretty much J. Cole is like saying that I didn't think about that. I feel like that's a common word. Is that bad?
Maybe. It's not. It's a little derogatory.
It is a little derogatory. What can I exchange that with?
I don't know. Maybe. What did you say?
Like, it would be sisters in that.
Well, I'm trying to think of.
What would be like a good? Because Because I was gonna say brothers instead of like.
Yeah. I really don't know.
It's kind of strange. Oops. All right. Was the little beep sound there? But anyway, so I'll find something to say. J. Cole says, one time for my LA sisters, and we'll just say one time for my LA, I don't know, broads. We'll do that. All right. That's not bad. One time for my LA broads. Lame. What's it say? One time for my LA sisters, one time for my LA broads. Lame people can't tell the. No, I don't. Now I can't even think of it without saying the actual stuff.
Yeah, lame people can't tell the difference. They don't really know, maybe?
Yeah. Is that it?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. All right, man, we're going to do some editing on this. All right, so one time for my LA sisters, one time for my LA broads. Lame people can't tell the difference. One time for my people who know, don't save her, she don't want to be saved. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
And it's just kind of like, it kind of hit me hard because it felt like God was telling me like, so I've been struggling a lot with just like understanding how to love people who obviously don't love Jesus, who don't love God. And it's like, it felt like God was just saying like, yo, there's going to be people who really love me and people who really don't love me, people who are for me and who are against me. And God's just kind of like, I love those people regardless. Like no matter if you're cursing my name, if you're sinning, or if you're, in church 5 days a week serving me in every way possible, like I love you regardless. But some people don't know the difference between those two people. Like whether that's people who, online who were teaching wrong, or people who just are living of the world but claiming Jesus, no matter that it is, like some of you can't tell the difference, but some of you can. And the people who can, like, thank you, like keep doing what you're doing. But then it says like, don't save them, she don't want to be saved. Like it's just like, even though there are those two different types of people, like it's almost like he was just like saying like, Kenya, listen to this, like listen to this. Even though some people can't tell the difference and some people can, you can't save everyone. Some people know who they are, and until they realize that themselves are not good enough, I can't help them. Like let them be. You know what I mean? And it was almost just kind of like, God, you want me to not share the gospel with those people? And I don't think that's what he was saying. I think it was almost more just kind of like, like what the song is saying, you can't save everyone. Like you literally cannot save them, and it's because they know. Like they literally know. Like, and weird, another J. Cole song. Like he literally, one song he was like, she's bad and she knows it. Some people save those people, but I'm not that heroic. Like he literally says that in one of his songs, and I was kind of like, that's what we do as Christians. Like it's literally like, I'm good enough. God, I go to church. I tithe. What are you talking about? Like, I'm literally here every Sunday. Like, I've been teaching Sunday school since day one. Like, I'm good enough to be there. And he's just kind of like, you think you're good enough. I can't save you. You know what I mean? And it's almost just like God's like, yo, like, all you have to do is not need yourself and need me, and we'll take it there. And long way to get around there. Probably should have thought through the song thing words before. But it's just kind of cool that even when I was going through an act of what I thought was like helping me get closer to God, God was just kind of showing me like, yeah, like, of course I want you to listen to things that are good for your soul and like pleasing to me. But like, I'm going to show you myself, even if you try to run away from me. You could delete every Christian song on this playlist or every single Christian song you listen to and listen to this worldly music. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you conviction through those songs too. Like, and I just thought that was really cool. Like, no matter how much I'm running away or how much and I don't think I was running away, but how much I'm like doing whatever, like God's still going to find a way to show me, even if it's something that I maybe should not be doing. I just thought it was really cool. You know? I thought it was really, really cool.
No, I thought it gave me a lot to think about when you shared that, because I was like thinking, I'm like, wow, it's the complete opposite for me in the way that I think about it. Just, and it's cool that God is working in that. Like, I think like he created everything. I think I said it was like he created everything for his good, and it's like, but everything got corrupted when, in the garden, or when Adam and Eve were created. So it, like, that was a lot of it for me in terms of, I keep saying for me, but to start listening to more Christian music is because like songs like No Role Models, or songs that I would listen to that are associated with a lot of the memories that I have, would create temptation. So it's like, okay, how can I find ways to flee temptations? Because I can only think about the times that I had that were associated with that music. Mm-hmm. And it's I don't know, it's just wild. Like, it's two completely different ways, but it's still the same God working in it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Hey, man, I told you that was going to be a theme, right? It doesn't matter where you're coming
every
from.
Episode,
yeah,
man.
Jesus is the way. Hey, that's what we need to do. Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's really, really good. Yeah, I think that's all I have for the song.
Yeah, I think that's all I have, man. I think we had a lot to say. That song is too good. Thank you for making that and sharing it with us.
Yeah, and thank you for No Big Deal and Danielle. Apicella. What is it again?
Apicella.
Apicella, yeah. Shout out to you guys.
I'm not going to ever say it the same.
Yeah. But shout out to them. Go give them a follow. Give them a listen. Great, great song, honestly. Really, really dope.
For sure. But, all right. Well, I can pray us out. Yeah. And we'll end it. All right, dear Lord, we just thank you for today and just this time, God, in our conversation. I pray that we just continue to glorify you and make your name known. And I just pray for all the lost souls that they would just come to know you and find you, or just even try to get to know who you are, God. And I just pray that you will reveal yourself to them. So we love you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Ooh.